Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the Square to Circle Music Channel. It's your old pal, Aaron Major. That's right. I'm that weirdo that likes to talk about all things circle and square. That's right. Music appreciation and record collecting. Uh, Come on, lonesome traveler. Come cop a squat by the fire. Let's sit and chit chat, shall we? Hope everyone's having a fantastic week. I'm having an all right week. It's kind of back to the normalcy for me as far as weather goes. Shitty, cold, wet, and rainy. That's kind of what I'm born and bred for here in the Northwest, Western Oregon. But starting to see some more kind of clear and warmer sunny days. Gonna get the garden in the ground here pretty soon. So yeah, fuck all that shit aside. Let's talk about what we came here for, right? Let's talk about record collecting. Let's talk about I'll show you mine and you show me yours. Isn't that how it works here at Square to Circle Music Channel? All right, let's have a drink. And tonight we're going to talk about something really fantastic that I love dearly. It's a huge chunks of my collection. I collect this stuff, and I'm talking about psych rock, guys. I'm talking about psychedelic rock, all types. Just that lovely bubble that we kind of throw everything in, as long as it's like rock and roll in nature, blues. I don't listen to a lot of blues rock, but a lot of this psych rock that I listen to is definitely heavily blues inspired, 60s, 70s, blues inspired, and all things to kind of like the avant end and like fusion jazz and just kind of all that stuff that's what I really adore. So when I'm talking about psych rock, that's kind of what I'm gearing toward. I like kind of the heavier, kind of stony psych rock. So you'll see a lot of these that kind of encompass that little double sub genre. But yeah, I'm going to talk about 13 of my very, very favorite psych rock bands, and specifically albums. So I'm just going to whip them out. Here we go. First on my list, a band I've talked about quite a bit. They got psychedelic in the name, so they got to be fucking great, right? They are. They're magnificent. Anyone that still hasn't checked out Psychedelic Porn Crumpets, please do so. Australian, 5-piece, kind of really heavily guitar laden, guitar heavy. So if you like stuff that's kind of, like I said, more like kind of like flame and blues rock, I don't want to say blues rock, but all that stuff is inspired by the blues, and they're just kind of more rip-roaring roller coaster ride, like super fantastic, really catchy, poppy, pop sensible, lots of clever hooks, lots of clever lyricism, gorgeous art. This album's called And Now for the Whatchamacallit. This was on my list of the top albums of 2020, in my opinion. This was probably at least like number 7 or 8 on my list of the top 10, pardon me, top 10 of the year. So did I say that? Top 10 of 2020. There's lots of numbers in there, but this album's the shit. They have tons of albums. They've put out an album every year basically since 2016. So you're looking at, a real wealth of great music by these guys now. So everybody check these fucking guys out. Australian rockers, these psychedelic porn crumpets. This album's from 2020. Late 2019. I think they released this in Australia in late 2019, and most of America didn't really pick up a copy of this until early 2020. But I got one of the first in the mail, ordered it from Australia, so I got a dope splatter edition, really great colors. Psychedelic through and through. Yeah, some of the greatest. I mean, my favorite song on this album, I love the opening track, Keen for Kick-Ons. It's called, some Australian lingo that I don't understand. But yeah, the whole A-side is just fucking slaps. Native tongue. The very last song on the album is called Desi's Adventure. They did like a stop animation or clay animation video. They have a bunch of clay animation videos, so everyone check that shit out. It's a great accompaniment to the music, is watching their fucking tripped out videos. So like I said, psychedelic through and through. Check them out, guys. They're fucking great. One of my very favorite. All their albums are magnificent. Okay, moving into a realm that is just a new band to me, which is crazy because they are you know, hugely responsible in the formative years of like this genre, psych rock, but also huge inspirations on what would come out of America and the punk rock scene in America. So really cool. I just kind of organically just stumbled upon this band just I don't know, a couple years ago. Um, cannot believe I've never heard of them before, earlier on in my life. But they're based out of Detroit. They were based out of Detroit. Only made a couple albums and never really had much of a career beyond those few albums. SRC, they're called. I can't remember what it stands for. It's the names of the guys in the band, I'm pretty sure. One of them or two of them. I think they were brothers initially. This was their second album called Milestones. But yeah, SRC, out of the late 60s, Detroit, Michigan, psych rock scene. Fucking incredible. This album, just the moment you drop the needle on the fucking first track, it's just like winding, swirling, crazy, psychotic, you know, psychedelic, awesome shit. These guys are fantastic. The A-side stands out primarily for me. I could just listen to this A-side over and over again. The song Show Me, really fantastic song, but then I even more so into the Eye of the Storm. Like those two songs, Eye of the Storm and I Remember Your Face, those sound kind of like proto-punk, kind of like what, you know, the Ramones were starting to latch on, you could tell. But this was 1969, so all those guys must have been just really heavily inspired by this stuff. And of course, to finish the A side off with the In the Hall of the Mountain King, that shit just will end you. It's so magnificent. And then it goes into that ending bolero theme that they do, just with the, you know, snare drum, really, really cool. B-side fucking slaps too, but the A-side specifically, I don't know, just kind of a more new discovery for this guy, for me. So 1969, Millstones by the band SRC. Really cool. Like, you know, I kind of lost my train of thought when I was talking about that song Show Me, just because I didn't want to continuously like compare things to other bands, which I do all the time. Like, hey guys, watch my video where I compare this band to that band. You know, it's like I'm trying really hard not to be derivative and shitty with the things I say and talk about, but sometimes you just have to mention, you know, inspirational music and groups because they were sharing ideas in that similar time and place in the world. In 1969, that song Show Me just really sounds like early Pink Floyd. It's just really magnificent. Everything from kind of like Saucer Full of Secrets and just kind of the, you know, the very formative years of Pink Floyd. You get a lot of tastes of that in here too. So whatever was inspiring them, maybe they were inspiring each other at that period in time. Really fantastic album. So check it out. Right, number 2, or 3, pardon me, on my list of 13 of my favorite psych rock albums. Again, another band I talk about quite a bit. I brought up like all their albums. I have all their albums and I adore them. And this would be considered more or less, not a departure from, but just kind of like, it stands out amongst their albums as being kind of more experimental and psychedelic and just kind of out there. It's more or less an EP that they released kind of between albums when they were enduring a move to Europe, being from the United States originally. All Americans, and then half the band wanted to go live in Europe, and in Berlin specifically, in Germany. And one of the guys wanted to stay in America because he's attached to family or whatever he's got going. And yeah, so you have this band kind of like, what are we going to do? They get a new drummer. Half the band's in Europe, and they just start playing around with other musicians and trying new things. And I don't think Jack Donovan ever was really like out of the picture. He just didn't want to go to Europe with the rest of the guys. But talking about Elder and that amazing EP they put out sometime in like 2019, I want to say 2019, as just kind of like a fun experimental, like I think Nick DeSalvo, the guitar player's primary songwriter, but guitar player, song writer and singer of Elder, he did most of the instrumentations, I believe, primarily on the A side that has 2 tracks, both lengthy, you know, probably 8 to 9 minute tracks. but especially Illusory Motion. There's a track called Illusory Motion, and Nick DeSalvo plays all the instruments on the album. I think there's maybe like some synthesizer and some vibraphone added by their other guitar player and songwriter, whose name always escapes me, pisses me off because he's an incredible player, and he's really like the progressive influence in the band. You can tell he was kind of an addition to the band on their second full-length LP. He wasn't a band member on their first album. He joined the band when they put out that album Lore, the second guitar player, and so you could see like this like taking off, and you know what they were doing was just far more progressive by nature, psychedelic and progressive, as opposed to their kind of early kind of sludgy or doomier sound. So yeah, boom, there's a mouthful. This one being their most kind of like psychedelic experimental of all of them. You're getting lots of cool, just smoky elements to their heavy, stony, you know, kind of, like I said, more kind of inspired from the doom metal days, but now we're kind of like getting a lot more progressive and experimental with things. And I just love the whole, yeah, like I said, the alchemical nature of it, the gold and silver sessions, and just kind of like, you know, a little potion being concocted by these guys. Pretty fucking amazing. Can't remember their drummer. I think he's probably just a sit-in session musician that was based out of Europe. So neither their original drummer nor their most recent drummer from their most recent LP called Omens that they released in 2020. Yeah, this shit's kind of hard to get a hold of. I had an original copy of it that I got from them, European press, on like, it was bone white wax. I had that for a few years and I sold it at a record show. Shouldn't have done that. I had to go out and I had to get another copy that I ordered directly from the band from Berlin. So it was expensive as fuck again, but whatever. Got this really cool insert, kind of newsletter style, where they just talk about, you know, what the band's been up to and the whole process of this, you know, this sessions that they wanted to do with, I think their drummer plays with that other group that Nick DeSalvo was involved with called Azurite and Malachite. Another LP that I have of theirs that you would get on this this label. It was an offshoot a bunch of these dudes just made, called Blues Funeral. Yeah, that was a lot of talking. I love Elder so much, and as far as if you guys like psychedelic rock, this is their most kind of like straightforward psych rock experimental album. Just a experimental EP, 3-song EP, but it's weighty. It's really good. Check it out, guys. All right, babbling a lot tonight, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me, talking about psych rock with me. Pardon me, wet the old whistle. Yeah, this one's right way to be like on my top 10, way up on my top 10 for the year. So far, released early this year, very beginning of January 2022. The Butterfly 3000 album by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. More Australian weirdos. And these guys are really fucking weird, but they're so magnificent, especially this album. Some of I'll totally shoot you guys straight. Since they release 3 albums, sometimes 4 albums a year, they have been doing that for 10 years. There's a lot of material, a fucking veritable boatload of material from these guys, and it can be difficult to sift through. Not all of it is winning, not all of it totally slaps. For me, it's like one album every 2 years really grabs hold of my sensibilities, my, you know, progressive and you know, crazy psych rock sensibilities, and this one just really, it tickles every little bit of me and what I like. So hooray for these guys. The Butterfly 3000 album by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, just released very soon as this year took hold, this year in 2022. So if you guys haven't really given these guys a chance, no one's really ever heard of them, everyone's just kind of sitting on the fence about them, not sure, have heard a little bit, didn't really latch on to what they heard, this is an excellent jumping off point, you know, really fucking great. So check it out, everybody. One of my very favorite psychedelic rock albums, a band I discovered about a decade ago. Kind of a lesser known, more of an unknown kind of band. I've really grown to love and adore just their, couple of releases that they managed to give out to the world before they decided to not pursue a music career anymore, which happens, flash in the pan. No one ever really makes it huge anymore. They tried real hard. They did magnificent. This was their first album. These guys were from San Jose, here in California. In America, they're called Astra. And this was their debut album called The Weirding. I want to say 2008. So it's already pretty old, pretty old. Coming up on 15 years old or whatever, but it's badass, everything about it. Like I said, kind of formative and highly experimental, but this really, if any of you guys like kind of classic prog sounds, this is definitely, you're going to love this, but it has a much kind of heavier, darker element to it, in my opinion. More of kind of like a sludgy psych feeling to it. It's, kind of Sabbath-y. It's got a real Sabbath ring to it, and so that's why it just, and of course the artwork and just everything they're doing, there's tons of synth all over this, but not in like a real nerdy proggy way, not light and aloof. It's really like heavy, droning, psyched out space rock type of synth, but there's fuck tons of mellotron. At least two of the guys in the band experiment with synthesizers on this album, or on both their albums, but in this band, and two of the guys that are primarily involved on vocals just do all of the synthesizer as well as guitar work. Tons of mellotron, something called an ARP Odyssey synthesizer. I don't know shit about my synths, guys, so don't ever think that I am any kind of like, book learned kind of guy on that topic. I'll just talk out my ass all night long about about that, but I love it. So yeah, some machine called an ARP Odyssey synthesizer, an Echoplex, of course a Moog, and tons of mellotron, organ, piano, electric piano. It's just, this album's just got such a great kind of like, almost a symphonic, like space symphonic rock sound, but psychedelic as fuck. Double album. The C-side, the second disc, first track is a full disc side of a one song, lengthy one. It's an epic tune that I've talked about on my channel before. When talking about epic songs, it's called Ouroboros. It's just like 18-minute epic journey, pretty fucking amazing. But all these tracks are absolutely legendary. So you guys, it's like, this one's really hard to find. You can get copies of it online somewhere probably, but you're gonna have to spend a lot of money. It comes with a really dope poster. I don't remember what I did with the poster. It's in my house somewhere, but I think I might have even framed it, I hope. Yeah, worth every penny. They have a second album that they released just a couple years after this called The Black Chord. I've talked about that a lot. Probably one of my favorite prog albums ever. So check out that one. Like I said, kind of darker, kind of more kind of just psychedelic, hard rock of a feel, rather than their second album, which is really more of just kind of like, almost has tons of classic prog elements to it. It kind of sounds like a classic prog album in a lot of ways. So those guys are dope. Another band I've talked about a ton, and I have like, 5 or 6 of their albums, so it's fun to just keep pulling these out and showing them off all the time. I love that band Papir. This band is from Denmark, from Copenhagen, Denmark. They are a trio, and they play psychedelic jazz rock, and just, they're all over the place. You can't put a pin on it. It kind of metamorphosizes and just kind of goes everywhere, and takes every shape and every form. Pretty much every album, they just title it, 5, dot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the track listings. So there's no song names ever on any other albums. Save maybe their first album, or maybe their second album called Stundum, but after that, they just started titling all their albums with a Roman numeral. This is Roman numeral 5, this album. And it is a thunderous journey through, yes, Danish progressive jazz rock, psychedelic jazz rock. Really fun. The C-side is my favorite again on this album specifically as well. It is a full side, all one track. I believe it's like 14 minutes probably. But yeah, it's just titled 5 Roman numeral 4, 15-minute track. It's just fucking out there. It's so great. And that's the way I think the last 3 albums that they've released, 5, 6, 7, all 3 of those albums are all double LPs. And they give you, these albums are just gorgeous. All the inner sleeves are these fantastic photos of the guys. Really intriguing, cool Danish guys. And just heavy duty wax. I love the stark black label, black and blue, dark colors, beautiful artwork, everything about this album. Fantastic. If you guys don't know anything about Papier, check out Papier. Like I said, trio, hard rock, jazz rock, psychedelic experimental stuff. Really magnificent. One of my very favorite bands. And I wanted to bring these guys out too because they happen to be on the same label as that band Papier I was just talking about. Well, Papier they put out at least 3 or 4 LPs on this record label, and I think maybe they have kind of shot off into kind of bigger territories now. Not sure. But that label I talk about and love so dear, El Paraiso, this is another one of their kind of, flagship bands. They're called Canaan. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that. Canaan, K-A-A-N, man. I don't know how I fucking say it, but I think they're from another one of those Nordic territories up there. I'm not sure if they're specifically from Denmark, but they might be from Norway. They could be anywhere up there. I haven't researched these guys a ton. But really simplistic, cool, not the music. The music is not simplistic whatsoever, but I just love the packaging by this company, all the beautiful, beautiful artwork that these guys, the band members in a lot of these bands, Kazo Sui and, this band and Papier, they all contribute all the art and photography as well to this, they're just a bunch of brothers that just all share members and have all these fantastic bands. These guys play some rip-roaring psych jazz, a little bit heavier than what Papier's doing, kind of like more elements of just like real, heavy stoner rock kind of stuff, but all instrumental. No other real instrumentations besides guitar, bass, drums. I think there might be a few spots where they invite a saxophone player or something on a track or two, or that the guitar player has all kinds of rad fucking pedals and effects and shit that he does. So sometimes his guitar sounds and whines and stuff kind of mimic horns and reed instruments and stuff like that. So maybe that's what my brain is kind of sending off signals about. But this shit's fucking all over the place. The title, or not the title track, the opening track, it's called A Hausenbecken. Yeah. First song on the A side, A Hausenbecken. That song is fucking sweet. 8-minute song, just rips you open. Rips you wide open. Great fucking band. Canaan. I think that was probably like a 2017 release. 2018. Already put it down on the... Not gonna go double check. American psych rock now. Fuzz rock. Space rock. Love the fuck out of these guys so much. This album's so fucking great. What was this, like 2010? No, it was later than that. It was like 2014. But yeah, this album by the band Wand. This album's called Gollum. It's so fucking rad. Spaced out, fuzzy, sometimes really just like sludgy up in your face. The singer though, just real kind of like meek and mild-mannered. Some screaming, some wild shit. These guys are like brother band group with the Ty Segall and all those guys, the OCs and stuff like that. But this shit is just fucking fantastic. I can get lost in this album. Way lost. Like, really fucking magnificent album. Yeah, my favorite track is the one that's like really spaced out, stony, kind of soft. It's a softer track. What's it called again? Melted Rope. Melted Rope is my favorite song on this album. But yeah, the rest of them really they're much harder, kind of like I said, fuzz, stony shit, but they can play some really soft, you know, space ballads, kind of out there shit, like kind of Smashing Pumpkins 1996, you know what I mean? That kind of really fuzzed out, spaced out, trippy shit. Love these guys so much. Yeah, the band Wand. Album's called Gollum. It had to have been probably 2014 or 2015. Anyway, weird period in time for me in my life, but yeah, this album was there for me. Takes me all kinds of fun places. Okay, here's kind of like a cheat, sort of. Not really. These guys are psychedelic as fuck. But we're talking about shit that's psychedelic. It doesn't have to just be like what you think or what your dad or your grandpa thinks is psychedelic. You know what I mean? Like, psychedelic has many meanings. You know, the word itself, I mean, and the idea and the concepts and just whatever. These guys are definitely psychedelic. They just happen to be doomy, doom metal psychedelic band. Of course, I'm talking about Yob, Our Raw Heart. This is just a monumental masterpiece of an album. Did they put this out in 2019 or 2020? I can't remember, but I'm sorry, 2018. Yob is from my hometown right here in Eugene, Oregon. These guys play some really, really thoughtful, ingenious, psychedelic, stoner, heavy metal. Yeah, doom metal, but with a hippie edge. Everything about this shit is just so endearing and just so close to home. I love the shit out of them. I won't tell the story. I always tell the story about Yob and how I kind of like, you know, my band used to like open up for them all the time and stuff like that. Pretty cool. Love the shit out of this album. But yeah, this is probably, I don't know, everyone says it's their favorite album of theirs, but basically every time they put out an album, a new album, like it just becomes my favorite. It's just the way these guys are. Love the shit out of them. Yob, Our Raw Heart. I'm calling it a psychedelic rock, guys. I'm calling it a psych rock album. So if you don't like it, fuck you. All right. I'm also going to call this a psychedelic album. Total kind of like other end of what we were just talking about with kind of the heavy doom feeling. This is much more lighthearted and light-spirited, but still with a really awesome, you know, introspective, far out psychedelic kind of like spirit. You know what I mean? I was talking about this last night because this is kind of a grail, a personal grail of mine. Not so incredibly difficult to get now because there's been recent reissues that make it more affordable, and you know, so people can finally get a copy of this thing. But I talked about it last night, bringing it out again. Nick Drake's album Pink Moon from 1972. Magnificent album if you want something that is very soft and subtle, and it has just a really fantastic formula to it. The whole album just feels like one big concept. I wouldn't say concept, but it's one solid vibe, that's for sure. And it's mellow as fuck. It's so great. I challenge anybody in the world to put this album and not just feel really fantastic afterward. I mean, not just like cheery and happy, but I mean just like feel full. You know what I mean? This album makes me just feel pleasantly full. It's got so much spirit. So beautiful. Yeah, Pink Moon by Nick Drake. English singer-songwriter, folk. You could just call it folk. Kind of psychedelic folk. So that's what I say. So happy to have this in my collection. I just love the art. Kind of cool too, because they like, I think original packaging doesn't have like liner notes on the inside, and they do like, it's a really nice, heavy, thick, you know, inner sleeve, but they used a picture of a classic shitty thin paper sleeve as like the faux inner sleeve. I didn't notice that at first. It just cracked me up. I'm like, oh, I wonder what's on this. And I'm just like looking at the color and the art, and I'm like, oh, it's even got like a faded ring in it from the LP. And it's like a really nice, thick, durable inner sleeve with a mock paper jacket on it from 1972. I'm surprised there's no like coffee stain or like a booger on it or something, you know, or like a pot leaf tucked in it or something. You guys ever found that? You ever found like a Doobie Brothers record that has a pot leaf stuck in it? I have. Fucking cool. All right, moving on down the line here, guys. I wanted to do 13 tonight, just kind of as out of his, just kind of fun, madcap, you know, crazy number. I always do top 10. And I had 13 albums that I just really wanted to show you guys. So that's what you're getting. Getting way up on the list. I've talked about this many times before. This was also on my list of my favorite albums of 2020. This album is fucking incredible. Talk about just like spaced out, stony, psych, space rock. Like these guys are, they just epitomize that kind of shit. If you just want to just like, you know, if you're taking rippers off the rush tube, you know, you're just fucking taking rippers off your bong all night long, this shit's gonna put you on fucking Saturn, man. It's gonna be awesome. Yeah, King Buffalo, the Dead Star EP. You can't, I can't say enough about this album and how dope it is. It's technically an EP, but there's quite a bit of music on here. It's the first side, both Red Star, part 1 and part 2, take up the entire A side, just wicked, cool, slow, thematic, you know, kind of sludgy, almost kind of doomy, even though, you know, when you're talking about doom metal, technically, like you kind of have to include like all aspects of what doom kind of encompasses, and you have generally vocal stylings that are throaty or deep or just kind of like of a bigger, more broad, ethereal nature. This guy's vocals don't do that. They're actually very mild-mannered and very beautiful vocals. He really sings quite well, and it just adds so much element to the music and kind of takes it out of that. When you're playing something that's so just like dark and sludgy and stony, but then your vocals are, you know, kind of the antithesis to that. I don't know, makes for a really great match. These guys do that so well. What else great can be said about it? That, yeah, part A and part B of the Red Star, that shit's so dope, but the fucking B-side kills too. Everything about this album is just fucking fantastic. The art, these guys are putting out tons of work these days. They put out at least 3 albums since this. Like I said, you know, just an EP that they put out first part of 2020. Yeah, at least 3 albums since then, and they're all magnificent. So everybody check out King Buffalo, the Dead Star EP. And you can probably get this from their website or Bandcamp, and it's probably pretty affordable because I think they pressed a lot of these. And for some reason, of course, people are often hesitant to buy an EP for some reason. Not enough music. I don't know, whatever. It was affordable when I got it. Here's kind of a special mention for my daughter. I mean, I love the shit out of this band, and they're psychedelic as fuck. They're awesome. And they had come to my town a couple times, and I really wanted to introduce my daughter to like live rock and roll shows. And she was like 9 years old at this time, so she's kind of, you know, burgeoning, just getting bigger, getting a little bit more experimental, a little bit more kind of like brave in certain ways and about certain social situations. You know, this was pre-pandemic and all that. So I took her to see this band. They're called Kikagaku Moyo. They're a Japanese psych rock band, kind of like elements of, you know, classic, kind of almost prog and psych, but also really cool elements of krautrock and like kind of trance, not really electronic, but just like, you know, kind of trancey kraut, you know, jam psychedelic rock. They're super fucking awesome. They played this place called the Wow Hall here in Eugene. Back then I took my 9-year-old daughter to it, and she was just like, she bum rushed the stage, just front and center, was just like fixated on these beautiful rock gods from Japan, and she just loved it. It was so fun to watch and such a great show. So I wanted to bring this out and talk about it. The album's magnificent. It's called Masana Temples, probably 2019. Yeah, probably 2019. I think this is their most recent release. I don't think they've put anything else out in the last 3 or 4 years. They just toured like crazy people. They were touring nonstop for this album, and their album just prior to this was called House in the Tall Grass. I brought that out and talked about it before. So yeah, everybody check this out. Magnificent. Masana Temples by the band Kikagaku Moyo. their name in Japanese translates in English to geometric patterns. I think that's what Kikagaku means, is geometric patterns. So yeah, Psychedelic Rock, man. Really great album. All right, this is the last one, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight and talking about psychedelic rock. One of my favorite genres or subgenres or whatever the fuck you want to call it. This is one of my favorite bands, another band that I've already talked about a million times on that really magnificent album, label, El Paraiso. This is something that has also been on my want list like forever. And I just recently picked up a copy of it finally, after just listening to the shit out of it for like 7 years and like never owning a copy on vinyl. So another kind of a pseudo grail for me this year. Yippee skippy. So I love Kazosui, another Danish band, heavy, stony psych rock, mixed with some cool elements of some kind of jazzy, kind of, you know, a little bit, but mostly just kind of like, yeah, stony kind of hard rock. They're just magnificent. This album's called Yupori Tide. Every track on it is an absolute masterpiece. But if you want something to dive right into, the opening track on the A side is magnificent. It's called Homage. That's a magnificent track. Also, the title track to the album is just called Yupori. That's one of the final tracks on the album. But yeah, check that song out as well. You will love the shit out of this if you like psychedelic rock. All instrumental. Fuck, I think a huge predominance of what I just talked about was mostly instrumental. Well, that's not true. But these guys, you know, they just kill it. They're just magnificent. So everybody check out Kazosui. This album, Yupori Tide, as well as, you know, many of their other albums are all fantastic. Everything. Give El Paraiso all your fucking money. Go to their website and just put your credit card number in there and just buy everything they've got. Everything they've got is magnificent. So you can't get this one anymore. Sorry. You're gonna have to go to a special website, or you're gonna have to go to like Discogs. It's the only place you can find copies of this anymore. So pretty dope. All right, love you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. This is always fun. I'll just keep cranking out some episodes, and you guys just keep watching them. And give me some thumbs, and give me some likes and some subscribes, and tell your friends, and let's do the contest and all that stuff. I'm gonna go make myself some noodles. Peace in the crease, motherfuckers.